Welcome to Empowered with Elizabeth Naumovski. We are now living post-pandemic, and as women, we find ourselves in the middle of the great breakup. Women are demanding more from work, and they're leaving their companies in unprecedented numbers to get it. Today, I'm speaking with Lesley Conway, CEO of Mindshare Canada. We're going to talk about how we can empower the next generation of up-and-coming female leaders to know, understand, and ask for their value. Thank you for being here, Lesley.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
So we could say the pandemic and remote work has brought our personal lives to the forefront of work, and it helped bring everyone's more authentic self to work. So what should employers be doing to continue supporting their people showing up authentically?
I think if you want authenticity, you've got to give it. People are going to feed off of one another. I think becoming more human and having more connection points is important for any company right now. But we're asking people to make a change again. There's the 90-21 rule, 21 days to form a habit, 90 days to form a lifestyle. We've had 3 years of lifestyle, and it was taking care of kids and homework and working and household. And we've changed the way that we do things. We've changed the way that we operate, and we changed the way we think about what is success. And so people are going to go, women are looking for places where they can find that right mix of, work-life balance again.
So, a lot of people, you've heard the saying, fake it till you make it. I'm sure you've been in that position. I know I've been in that position. I mean, you've got to do what you have to do to make yourself successful. That's just the way it is. But what advice would you give to women in a similar situation that feel that they have to fake it to make it?
I think faking it's really a better word for it is opportunity, right? Opportunity doesn't present itself if you don't earn it. So I think rather than thinking about faking it, it's just like anything else. We're going to get it done because as women, that's sort of the attitude. Nobody else is going to take care of it. Let's just get it done. And so we're so busy getting it done that we think we're faking it. And it's that imposter syndrome.
I was just about to say that. It's that nagging imposter syndrome that keeps twirling around in our brain.
Yeah. And I think you have to find a way to make it a strength. When you get that awful gut, visceral reaction to something, you have to stop and go, nobody's going to figure out that I don't know what I'm doing because I actually do know what I'm doing. And I do know how to get this stuff done. And you've got to turn it into a strength. And I think, we're so hard on ourselves and we're so worried about, failing. And it's not about failing. If you fail, great, learn something from it.
Right.
It's all about, it has to be okay. If we're talking about being our authentic selves, we have to say sometimes you can't and sometimes you can, but it's what you learn from it and finding strength in that weakness.
It's interesting that you talk about failing because no one wants to fail, but I keep saying that you need to keep failing because it ends up building upon your foundation so that you can actually find your own success.
Yeah,
but
it's
people,
how you learn.
Yeah, but people walk away from it because they think, I can't fail, this is bad.
Well, I think it's Facebook if you're not failing, you're not growing. You're not learning, right? You're not building because you can't find something, you can't innovate without failing first.
Yeah,
You've got
absolutely.
to know what it is and have a basis to grow on.
So, have you seen a change in gender roles from pre to post pandemic now?
I think we're back. I think we've set ourselves back a bit, probably 30 years on some of the gender equity that we had begun to make. Frontline workers tend to be women. Some of those lower level jobs tend to be women who've come in sort of later into the workforce, and they were the first ones to go home. And I think bringing women back and giving them the security to know that it's okay. Let's make this look the way that we need it to look. This is no longer a 9-to-5 punch in, punch out world. This is return to work, but in what way? What does that look like? And I think each company, each person has to figure out what that's going to be for them. For us, we've gone to a prescribed 3-day week. We say it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We're not saying punch in at 9 and punch out at 5. It's let's figure out how we get there. As I said before, we've been living a certain way. It's not going to change overnight, and it's uncomfortable. Change is uncomfortable. So how are we, showing up for our people and letting them find a pathway to getting there, to being there, and being there with intention on Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, and what that means. We've forgotten what that can mean.
This is true. And you are so on point when you say change is difficult. People get settled into a pattern. People get settled into their life. People get settled into their desk at work. We've all seen that change can happen. It can happen quickly, not as easily, But we are really good at adapting, and that's something that we need to give ourselves credit for. So when we come back, we will keep talking about empowerment and change. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Empowered with Elizabeth Naumovski, where we're discussing empowering the next generation of up-and-coming female leaders to know, understand, and ask for their value. So, Les, we just came back from break. Post-pandemic, back to office mandates. Is it helping or hindering women?
I think that's up to us. To be honest with you, I think that we're making the decisions about what we want in our lives now. We've sort of been living a lifestyle that has empowered us at home with the kids and homework, and I think we have to go back and look deep and sort of say, what is my ambition now? Where do I want to be? And then make those decisions that are best for ourselves. So I think it can hinder us if we let change be mandated by somebody else and not saying, okay, what's the change I want to see in myself too?
So do you think it would be difficult or easy to convince corporate leadership that empowering women is good for business?
I think everybody is super conscious right now of DE&I. That's women, that's racial and ethnic minorities, and the role that needs to be played at every level, because we have to reflect society. Our businesses have to reflect society. So I think that that's helpful. I think that how we show up as women in the workplace is very important. It's not the days of old, like where we had to laugh and we had to be one of the boys. I mean, you came up with me, it was uncomfortable at times. You just had to go with it so that you could get ahead, because if you were going to rock the boat or complain, it was going to be, it wasn't going to go well. And I think now we have a real opportunity for younger leaders to say, this isn't okay, and this is how we have to behave at work, and everybody has to behave this way.
It's interesting that you bring that up, because prior to me working on Bay Street, I worked in broadcasting, and I was told that by a friend of mine, you're going to have to change who you are. You have to tone yourself down because Bay Street isn't ready for someone like you. So I've been through it as well. And we've taken risks. My risk was going from one industry to another. What risks what is the biggest risk that you actually had to take in your career?
I just went from, the sales side of the desk over into the agency side. I started my career in agency, spent 20 some odd years on the sales side, and moved back into agency. And that was an uncomfortable place. When you get uncomfortable, it's good. Yeah. Go with it. Find it. Feel it. It is very empowering because you learn about yourself and about your people. But I think, again, risk is also opportunity. So you take the right risks at the right time for you, and it will pay off with success. You have to be taking risks to kind of get to that place. If you're ambitious, you will have to take risks. They're calculated, but you've got to go down that road.
It's really interesting that all these shows that I've taped, the ongoing theme on every show is risk. And this is something that a lot of women like to shy away from. This is something that a lot of women don't want to put themselves in because they're so afraid of failing. But as you'd mentioned earlier, we need to take risk, we need to fail, because it'll take us to the next level. So what would you say to someone who is so risk adverse, is terrified of taking risk and just doesn't want to, but wants to move on?
I would say figure out what it is inside of you that's making you uncomfortable. So often, and it hurts my heart when I see somebody young and smart and empowered going, I'm sorry, is this a stupid question?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to be stupid, I'm going to fail. That's all fear.
Right.
And fear will paralyze you. And it's, how do I get back up? Think about some point in your life where fear has held you back and what you did to overcome it, and then apply it in this case.
So if you're looking at risk in business for women, what types of risk would you like to see women going forward take?
I think stop apologizing. I think own our own space. I think in the absence of leadership, lead. I don't think you have to be entitled to be a leader. There's so many different ways to show up at work. There's different, employee groups, there's resource groups that you can put your hands up for and participate that shows real leadership. And I think exploring your leadership power and what it means to have a voice is so important for women. And there's such a great opportunity right now as we all start to come back together.
You know, we have about 30 seconds before we go to break, but one of the things that I want to talk about is, you know, so many women are afraid to put their voice out there. They're afraid to put their hand up in class. Like, what do we do to change that?
I think it's support. I mean, it's women supporting women. It's recognizing that I remember when I felt that way. And it's not being afraid to help somebody or to give them advice. And it's about encouragement. And we really have to encourage one another better.
I love it. Encouragement. We will be right back with more from Lesley. Welcome back to Empowered with Elizabeth Naumovski. We're discussing empowering the next generation of up-and-coming female leaders to know, understand, and ask for their value. So, Lesley, speaking of, do you have any personal strategies that you can share on how to successfully ask for what you want?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, when you look at business, and whether it's a raise, whether it's promotion, whether it's a new opportunity, or just taking on a special assignment, what's the business case, right? If you decide, I really want to do this, I might be going down one road and I've got to go down another road for self-fulfillment. It's what's the business case for this, right? You can't just go and ask for a raise. You can't just go and say, I want to do this job today. It's, I want to do this because, like, have your facts. How is it going to benefit the company? Not only you showing up, being, you know, enthusiastic, ready to go, passionate about what you're doing, fulfilling on that. How is it going to help the company? And I think it's always, if you think about what the benefits are and weigh them out, it's almost putting together a business case for yourself.
I was just about to say, would a business plan help out?
Absolutely. Doing a self-business plan, you should have a one-page sell sheet on yourself so that you always, in the back of your head, you know, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What empowers you and what gets you out of bed in the morning?
You know, I think that's really important. And I think it's really important for people to have an updated resume. You know, so that if you need to use it at any point, it's there, it's ready to go. But a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people think, I'll just do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. And they get sidetracked by watching TV or children or shopping or laundry or whatever. But I think it's really important that we focus on ourselves and we put ourselves first at times.
Self-awareness is going to be everything. When you're going to have to go forward and ask for these things or have uncomfortable conversations, you have to be incredibly self-aware of what that's going to do when you're asking for it, because you may face somebody that's going to give you pushback. They're not ready to hear it in the moment. So it's really about how you're addressing that and being aware. And going back to a resume isn't necessarily about getting a job. A resume is about yourself. All the things that you're proud of, like that list of things that have made you feel really good in your life or things that you've accomplished, it's on your resume. You put flowery words around it, but it's really everything that you're proud of and that you want to showcase about yourself. And reminding yourself of that is really important on a regular basis.
And those are really good words of wisdom. Now, how do you advise people, particularly women, to tackle uncomfortable situations? Because everyone goes through them.
I have a really sort of little thing that I say to myself: be direct, be specific, and be non-punishing. I mean, if it's a truly uncomfortable situation, like harassment or sexual, I think that that's a different story. This is if I'm going to have, Liz, when you did this, it made me feel a certain way. I'd really love to talk about it so we don't come back here again. You know, assume positive intent, that everybody's coming to the table with positive intent, and then have that conversation with what happened, when it happened, how did it make you feel, and what would you like a different result to be?
So you and I have talked about this many times off camera when we've sat and you know, chatted with each other. A lot of women don't know their value. And so what I want to ask you is, in your career, did you always know the value of your worth and advocate for it?
I think I always advocated for myself. I'm not sure I always knew the value of my worth, right? So That took more time. I had a lot of really good people around me for a lot of my career that sort of said, oh, but if you're going to make that move, if they're coming to get you, make sure you take your tenure. Or if this is what they're asking you to do, you need to go back and ask about the whys. Like, what's the benefit here to you as well? So I learned it as time went on. And now I like to make sure that I instill it in other people. Because I think knowing that and advocating for yourself and not being afraid to sort of say, no, this is what I am worth and this is what I bring to the table and here's why you're going to benefit from this with me.
So what was the turning point for you where you actually realized that, you know what, I'm worth what I'm worth and I am who I am and I have to advocate for myself?
I think I had the benefit of coming out of a sales background where, you know, when you're selling your product, you believe in the product, you believe in exactly what it's going to do for somebody, and you're not afraid to be expensive. I'm unapologetically expensive. It's okay, it sounds good, right? But it's true. Like when you're out there and you're selling this show for advertising, right? You're not going to apologize for what you ask in terms of the value of the show.
Right.
So why would I do something different with myself? It's uncomfortable,
right? Because
you're selling you're not selling a thing, but you have to do it. And so that for me, like I found strength in that. I was like, why do I, why am I good in one place and not in the other?
Wonderful way to stop. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Empowered with Elizabeth Naumovski, where we're discussing empowering the next generation of up-and-coming female leaders to know, understand, and ask for their value. And I'm here with Lesley Conway, CEO of Mindshare Canada. Lesley, we were talking about self-worth and we were talking about advocating for yourself. I'd like to move on now to talking about a professional support system. So did you have a professional support system to get you to where you were?
You know what? I've had a wonderful professional support system. And I think the most interesting thing about it is there's not just one mentor. I think I've had a lot of different people who come in and out throughout my life that I still turn to. But there's a core group of really strong, amazing ladies that I tap into for different things. And I think knowing what your situation is and who you have around you that are, great sounding boards and really important to tap into, or who have had those experiences and you know that they've had those experiences in a different industry, so they might have dealt with it differently from you. And I think recognizing that in other people is really important to have, and finding that place of security and safety where you feel it's okay to sort of have that conversation where you're trying to figure it out. As a CEO, you're just expected to know sometimes, and it's okay to not know. And it's okay to ruminate in that weakness a little bit and then find the places that you know that you can get the support from and the information from. So I've come to you a number of times.
And I've come to you.
Exactly. And and it doesn't always have to be, it's not like I have to go looking for another CEO. There's leaders everywhere in our industry, whether it's in media, whether it's in another company. There's people in different industries that I can really draw from, and I find that, that energy and those answers really come from the people around you.
There's three things that you just touched upon that I think are really important. Number one, we all need mentors, no matter what position you have. And we're also mentors because we both believe that we need to mentor the next generation and get them to be more successful than we actually are. The other thing I loved is, surround yourself with some pretty incredible people, because you and I will never fail at anything. We always go to different friends that have been through different situations, and that'll help us get to the next level or whatever problem it is. And I love the fact that you said that you don't have to know everything. I certainly don't know everything, but some people think they need to be perfect and they need to know the answer to everything. And that's not what life is all about.
I think, it's really interesting that as we do return to work and talking about different levels of productivity and people and finding those mentors, it's now my responsibility coming out of COVID to identify, what does the succession plan look like? How do we ensure that there's people coming up through media that are going to have careers in media? How am I helping this incredible group of people? 50% of our workforce started working in COVID. how can I ensure that they want to build careers in media? Because it's not just what they were doing at home. Even though they were productive at home, there's a different level of productivity now. So it's, how do I engage with these people? How am I mentoring these people? How am I participating? How am I showing up when I show up at work? How am I showing up for them to ensure that they know what's possible, that they understand that hearing people around you talk demonstrates for you what you want to learn. I want to sound like this person or that person in a conversation, or recognizing that the meeting happens in the hallway after the meeting. It's not like when you hit leave on your Zoom and there's people sitting in that boardroom, there's a meeting that's still happening and decisions are getting made. And I think that celebrating that and helping this new generation who really has experienced their career in COVID on a screen, what that looks like going forward, I think that's a big part. For me, I'm super conscious of that. And that's a lot of mentoring into that, and that's a lot of showing up for my team.
So, last 10 seconds, words of wisdom.
Well, wasn't that enough? I think going back to, there's always going to be uncomfortable situations. There's always going to be points where there's risk. There's going to be those moments when you have your imposter syndrome and you have to get past it. You've got to find strength in it.
Thank you so much, Lesley.
Thank you.
As Lesley said, there are 3 themes to the conversation. Equality, don't be afraid to be your authentic self in order to fit in and succeed. Risk, in order to be successful, you need to take that risk. Remember, it's okay to fail, and it's okay to have constructive conflict. And be proactive. Know the value of your worth and always advocate for yourself. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski, and I'm trying to empower you and make frugality fashionable. Bye for now.